Welcome to the zoning board meeting for April 13th of 2021. The members that will be serving on the board tonight will be member Steve Bernard, Fire Chief Michael Williams, Ms. Tony Goncalves from the Planning Board, our alternate Doris Smith, and myself, Kenneth Galligan, as chair. Our zoning enforcement officer, building superintendent, and clerk to the zoning board, Mr. James Porth, and our recording secretary is Beth Lacombe. Prior to the start of the meeting, I will read a document from the governor's office regarding public hearing to be held virtually. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held virtually on this date in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A and 20, relating to the 2020 coronavirus outbreak emergency. This public meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be open to the public. However, the public and all applicants are encouraged to participate remotely. Alternative public access to this meeting is provided through Brockton Community Access TV, and it will be live streamed. I would ask prior to the start of the meeting that anybody that is going to be testifying tonight to please shut off any electronic devices, telephones, radios, whatever, that will interrupt the meeting. Prior to the start of the hearings tonight, there is an opportunity for anyone who may want to withdraw from any of the hearings tonight. We have one withdrawal that has been forwarded to us, and this case that was scheduled for tonight will not be heard. And that is petition number 2134, the petition of Edward Franco, 3 Farmington Lane, Canton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9 and Article 4, Section 27.26 to convert an old industrial warehouse into 56 residential units in an R2 zone located at 15 Rutland Square. That petition has been withdrawn, and we expect that it will probably be resubmitted at a future date. So if you're here tonight for that hearing, it will not be heard. Is there anyone else tonight that would like to withdraw prior to the start of the meeting? Okay,
I see none.
I see none, yeah. Okay, so that is the only one that we will withdraw tonight. The format of the hearing tonight will be that I will call the case. The petitioner that's been called will make a presentation to the board. Following that presentation, I will then close that portion of the hearing and ask if any board members have any questions of the petitioner regarding the information that was just presented. Following that, I will then ask for anyone in the public domain that would like to speak in favor of the petition. Following that, I will ask if there is anyone that wants to speak in opposition. Following that, I'll ask if there are any elected officials that want to speak relative to the issue. At that point, I will close the public hearing, and I will then open deliberations for the board members only. As far as the board vote, there are 5 members. If all 5 members vote in the affirmative, the petition will be granted. If the vote is 4 in the affirmative and 1 in the negative, the petition will be granted. If the vote is 3-2, 3 in the favor, 2 in the negative, the petition will be denied. I would caution the board members that if you're going to make a motion, to make the motion to grant. And then we can decide whether we want to vote for it or against it. Following the vote, I will then announce the decision of the board, and I will announce to the general public the vote of the hearing and the result of the hearing. So that is the format of tonight's hearing. The first case that's before us tonight is to request an extension of an originally heard case in March of 2020. And this was the petition of George Carney Jr., trustee of Carney Realty Trust, 1958 Broadway, Rainham, Mass., for a variance from section 27.9, 2713H to be allowed to develop and construct 17 residential lots due to existing conditions in an R1A zone located at plot 97 Pleasant Street. That was heard by this board and it was granted. The petitioner now is requesting a 6-month extension. Any comments from the board? Or is there any comment from the petitioner? I'm sorry, the petitioner want to comment on that? All right, is there any comments from any of the board members? It has been
Mr. Chair, I move that the petitioner be granted a 6 months extension.
Somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant a 6-month extension. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Goncalves.
Yes.
Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Chief Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Ms. DeReese Smith. Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that is 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The request for a 6-month extension is granted. The next case, 21-28, the petition of Shalanda Johnson, 1018 North Main Street, Brockton, Mass., for permission to have the basement and first floor as one living unit in a C5 zone located at 1018 North Main Street.
Just forget it. They call me right now.
Is there anyone here to speak on that?
You give me anxiety. I'm on a meeting right now. Hello?
Yes,
Yes, I'm the petitioner.
please identify yourself.
I'm Shalanda Johnson.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to get permission to do that because my unit is very, very small and I have 2 kids and I only have a 2-bedroom. And when I purchased the house, I was thinking that I would be able to, build in the basement. And I was unaware of all these, laws that I had to go through in order to do so. And so I currently don't have a room for myself. So that's why I would like to add the basement to my first floor unit.
Okay, any questions from board members?
No.
Is this currently a 2-family house?
Yes, it is.
Now, this building is located in the C5 zone, and that's the reason that you're here tonight on a special permit, because you cannot expand the living area any more than 50% without coming before this board. I guess the board would have to determine whether or not this is going to be any more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Yes, I believe the expansion of the part I want to renovate is only about 950 square feet. Don't quote me on the exact numbers because I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but it's under 50% if you're going based upon the total amount of the total building.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any reason why we couldn't grant this. It's remaining a two-family by her adding living space in
Okay.
her basement. It's not changing that.
All right, just hold on for a minute, Tony. I'm going to open it up for public comment, and then we'll come back to us. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions relative to the petitioner? Now I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Mr. Clerk?
I see none. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
I see none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on this issue?
None have raised their hand, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I am now going to open it up to deliberations by the board. Board members.
This is Steve. Is the house we're talking about the red two-story, two-family house on 1018 Main Street? Is it with the black painted foundation?
Is the petition, can you answer that question?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Okay. It's very unusual that we allow living space in the basement to without asking the questions. Are there, proper means of egress and entrance and exit from the basement? And where are they located? Would you describe where they're located?
Yes, there's egresses.
And would you describe?
There will be two egresses. There's a back way doorway, and then the regular stairways to go upstairs to the first floor unit, and then also I plan on putting an egress window.
Okay. And how many rooms are you proposing to have on the basement?
Two, just in case I decide I want to expand my family. I would like to have an extra one for myself, and if I decide to have another child.
Are they two bedrooms that you're talking about, or utility rooms, or describe what the rooms will look like?
2 bedrooms.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When I visited the site, I discovered that this is a very well built out lot. I'm a little disappointed in the plans that were submitted to us. I wish that we had had something that would have shown us what the yard and the parking looks like. I did discover that there's a shed up against the house in the backyard. I think the plans are very weak. She needs to have an exit to the outside, and the second exit can go up into the main house, because what she's proposing to do here is not an additional apartment. It's an expansion of the first floor. But the concern is, of course, the living area in the basement area.
Can I, sir? Hello? Can I speak on
I'll
that?
I'll let you say something, but truly we've closed that portion of the hearing. So if you want to add something, just be very quick.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So I have the shed in the back because I have some stuff in my basement. So like once, if I'm able to start the construction, I was going to move my stuff from the basement into the shed.
Okay.
But that shed can come down. It's removable.
Okay. Any other comments from the members of the board?
Mr. Chair, we're in deliberation of the board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
At
This
this
is
point?
among the board, yes.
Okay, so do other board members share my concern about the number of egress from the basement to the outside of it? I'm not clear if there's one that goes back up to the first floor and one that exits to the outside, as opposed to two exiting to the outside. Is that what we understand?
Oh yeah. So one goes from the basement up to the first floor, and then there's a back hallway to go outside, and then there is one that comes straight from the basement outside.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, this is speaking to the other board members. I don't know that the petitioner is supposed to respond. I just want to get a feeling of how the other board members feel about the egress from the basement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This portion of the hearing now is really just closed to the board members, so thank you for your input. Both of these exit ways are at the same end of the cellar. One goes up to the internal back stairway, which is the back hallway for the first and second floor. And in that area, apparently there's going to be some kind of a laundry area, whatever. If this were an apartment that was going to be rented out to somebody else, they would need two direct exits to the outside. And apparently one of them could be one of these so-called exit windows. This one, the reason I guess she's here before us to expand here is because she's in the C5 zone and she can't expand without coming before us. But the plans show that, for example, what I've noticed, the hallway, it shows it's only 3 feet wide, which is a very narrow hallway, in my opinion, for a basement. And you've got one end of the basement that is fully the length of the house away from any of the exit doors. And I think that's why she was mentioning something about putting in an exit window. So,
if I may,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead.
On the plan I'm looking at, there are two sets of stairs, like you said, one up to the main house, one to the outside, but each of the main rooms and at the bottom of the stairs going to the first floor, the plan does state that there's emergency egress windows. And if I remember correctly, we approved these on a property on Battle Street recently.
No, I think we denied that.
I'm sorry if that's the case.
Yeah, in that case, I think got denied, Chief, because remember the plans and the dimensions didn't line up.
Okay.
They were proposing these windows and we questioned the windows, but I think the biggest problem was that the dimensions of the foundation in the house didn't match what the plan said.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
And Mr. Chair, are these windows that you see on the plan, are they large enough from what you see to exit, as if, say, it was a third-story building and they had to come out a window and down a set of stairs or a ladder?
I think our concern, this is relatively new to the board, and apparently the state building code is starting to allow these things. And they have to be so many feet off of the floor of the cellar, and they have to be so many square feet. I guess the concern we had was that the ones that we were seeing were actually in window wells, and the question was, what do you put on top of the well so nobody falls into the well? You have to put a grate over it. And what happens in a snowstorm when it fills up with snow? If there's a fire in the basement, speaking of fire, the heat of combustion and smoke and everything rises, and actually you're climbing up into the smoke and heat to get to the window to get out, rather than in a normal building you would get down and crawl on the floor to get out the door. So it is different, but apparently the building code is allowing this, and we're probably going to see more and more of these, but I think there's been a hesitancy on the board so far anyway, with a concern about at least those that are below grade that require a window well and keeping that window well open.
We- Well, there are two. There is one out through a door, although that hallway you said is narrow, and there's the window.
Yeah, I just wish I'd seen a plan of the yard to see how this is going to play out, even a picture of the house or something. It's very, what I'm looking at here is extremely minimal. It's not helping me make my decision. So anyway, any other comments from any board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, Steve Bernard, I would like to make a motion to grant. And this is, it's to be specific, this is a motion to grant in the hopes that it is granted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. On the motion, if this is granted, I think we should put a stipulation in here that this shall not become another apartment within the building. It is only to be used in expansion of the living area of the first floor.
I accept that it's, that to be added to the motion.
Okay. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Gongalves,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Chair, that is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The petition is granted with the stipulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next petition, 21-29, the petition of Diane Wignall and Byron Allen, 23 West Park Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance to change the single-family home into a two-family dwelling in an R3 zone located at 23 West Park Street. Is the petitioner ready? Is Miss Wignall or Byron Allen here?
Yes. Diane Wignall is here, and my husband is here, Byron Ali.
Okay, we're ready to hear your case. If you want to present to the board, you are asking for a variance to convert this into a two-family house. In
Yes.
granting a variance, you must show a hardship to the board.
Yes, we would like to petition the board. Thank you for inviting us to 23 West Park Street in Brockton. We've lived here since January of 2017, and we would like to turn our single family home that we purchased here into a two-family where we would live here into this home and add the top floor into a one-bedroom apartment. We forwarded to the board members. We hired an architect and to make you some drawings of what that would look like, what would be the exits and the deck and so forth. So the egress, okay. Yeah. And there's already parking for 6 cars.
Okay, what is the hardship that's on this property? What's unique about this property that we should allow you to do this?
Well, what's unique about this property is we like the neighborhood. We want to live here. I'm getting closer to getting older. I work in Brockton and I live in Brockton, and we want to stay on the first floor. The both of us, we're empty nesters, and have the upstairs as a 1-bedroom rental unit.
Questions by members of the board? Can you explain the parking proposal for this location?
Sure. Byron, you want to explain the parking?
Oh, we got a single detached garage that could have maybe 2-3 cars.
3 cars.
And then we have beside the garage, I forget the garage too, but and then we could park. We have
It's really parking for, we were told, up to 6 cars.
yeah, because 2 cars could park side and side with room.
With room.
Yeah, at least 6 feet and.
So who determined that there's room for 6 cars?
Well, we went to the board of the building. What's the department with Christine? What's our office? The building department. And we asked them originally 2 years ago when we were thinking about doing this, what are the steps we need to take? And I think they said anywhere, seems as if when we showed her the pictures and we told them the address, it looks as if it can accommodate 4 to 6 cars. I guess it depends on the size of the car. I have a compact car. My husband has a Silverado. So I'd asked the building director, they're very kind. And she said, it looks as if it could accommodate 4 to 6 cars. Because I went 2 years ago to ask, what do we need to do for this process?
I don't know. I'm having nothing.
Okay. I don't see any kind of a parking plan that would show us dimensions of the driveway, the length of the driveway, and how.
Oh, I apologize.
Would be.
I thought we had sent them pictures.
We have pictures from the.
Oh, hold on. He's saying something.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Very serious concern on West Park Street because of the density of that neighborhood.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have room for at least 3 cars, comfortable. You know.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, looking at this property, it's very tight. Looking at the driveway, I can't see 6 cars fitting here. How many spaces are required? Can you tell me?
Should have 4,
6.
and there should be 180 square feet, 9 by 20.
We have more than that.
Right, because now there's only 2 cars now.
We would need to see that on a plan because it's not clear enough.
Okay. Parking. You need to see parking on the plan.
I almost sure.
And the gentleman said something about the size.
Yeah, the parking spaces are usually 180 square feet, which is 9 by 20.
9 by 20. Okay.
We have more than that. There's more than that there.
I guess I'll have to find out for sure.
Yeah. But right now we have 2 car parks side by side right now. And it have room in front, it had the garage, and I want to come behind.
Yeah, so if one car pulled in straight to that garage, and I guess this really isn't our concern, but they wouldn't be able to pull out. You'd have to back a car out to get the car out of the garage or the space up along that rear entrance. So it's not like cars could just pull in and come out. But it should be outlined on the plan so we can see.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
So to the applicant, are you planning on expanding this 2nd floor?
No.
No.
We're downsizing.
We're downsizing. Actually, we're not expanding. I think.
We are at an office.
What was the name of the fire department, gentlemen?
No. What we did, we add the office to the rear of the build to the kitchen and made it a 2-bedroom instead of 3-bedroom downstairs.
So
we're not adding to the building.
Yeah.
You're adding a kitchen to the 2nd floor. Is that correct?
No. We take away the what we did, we take out a bedroom and made it an office.
Yeah, but on it, your plan is to put a kitchen on the second floor, correct?
Yes. Sorry.
So
They're
basically,
looking at our
the
plans.
second floor is, from what I'm looking at, is basically gonna be a kitchen and a bedroom.
Right, on the second floor.
Yes.
So no type of living area?
Yeah,
Well, the living area is there's a living area with the kitchen and the bedroom.
Yeah, but I mean, so separate from the bedroom and separate from the kitchen,
No,
usually.
it was two bedroom up here. It was two bedroom. We take one bedroom and the area, and it had a big, big bathroom area. So what we did, we turned the one of the bedroom and the bathroom area into one living kitchen area. Sort of a, what do you call that?
like an open plan.
Open,
plan.
yeah.
Okay, so with this box in the middle where the X is, I guess that would kind of be the living area?
Yes, sir.
The box with the X.
Yes.
Yes. That where the chimney come up there. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this was originally a single-family house with 2 bedrooms on the second floor, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Right. So
And,
you're adding,
yeah.
2 bedrooms on the second, 2 bedrooms on the first.
Yeah. And the
Yes.
bathroom.
so you're adding a deck on the back over the addition that was put on the back of the house, and then
Yeah,
you're
it's
adding.
more like an egress. Yeah, sorry.
Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You're adding a deck on the rear of the house over the 1-story addition, and then you're adding beyond that a stairway to go from the second floor downstairs.
Yes.
All right,
Ms.
any other questions from the board?
Ms. Wignell,
Yes.
are you saying that your only hardship is your living circumstances? Nothing particular about the building or?
Yeah, we want to maintain the integrity of the building. It was
Mhm.
built in 1880, which I absolutely adore, and all the history about that when it was built, and the second house next to us was built. So we want to maintain the integrity of the house and not add to it, but just maintain what is there, preserve what is there. The doors, the windows, to really preserve the history of the home.
Thank you.
Okay, board all set?
I had just had one more question. So is your main goal here to create extra income by renting this out? Is that the goal?
Yeah, well, it will be a help right now because I'm about to retire in a way, sort of, and my health isn't good, so I just need an income. I'm not working as how I used to work. Have this COPD, and I will need income soon, very, very soon, because I'm in
I
a
didn't know
severe condition.
you were
And
doing
we're
it.
going to the first floor.
I'll be going to, I can't come upstairs either. Coming to the second floor is, I'm out, I can't make it like that, so I definitely will need to stay on the first floor.
Yeah, so it would be income.
Yeah, it would be income. Yeah.
All right, so did you say you had health issues that you can't make it to the second floor?
Yeah. I have I suffering with COPD,
Okay.
and it's really a pain coming up these stairs.
I see. Thank you.
I got to, I can't work no more.
Okay, is the board all set?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
Mr. Chair, I do not see any.
You're going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
Chair, I do not see any.
No opposition? Mr. Clerk, did you say no opposition?
That is correct. No opposition.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
I do not see any, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open up the deliberation by the board. Board members.
The house was knowingly purchased as a single-family house. It is obviously a single-family house, and I don't think it's the petitioner talked about keeping the integrity of the house. Making it a two-family is not, in my opinion, keeping the integrity of the house. So I also don't think that they unfortunately have sufficient hardship.
I have concerns with the parking that was not shown on the plan and the size and what's going to happen in the backyard with the expansion and creation of that stairway, which would be the second means of egress from the second floor. So it is a very dense neighborhood. Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to enter a motion to grant the hopes that it fails.
Somebody want to second that?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Goncalves.
Yes.
Mr. Bernard.
No.
Chief Williams.
No.
Ms. Smith.
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The petition is denied. Thank you. Okay, the next petition is 2130, the petition of Nashawa Hallwood, 23 Levitt Street, Brockton, Mass, from section 27-9 to convert a single-family home into a two-family home in an R3 zone located at 53 Levitt Street.
I'm spending all that money, we can't do what we want.
Hi, Nashara, here,
Tell them that.
and my husband.
Joseph Chaperon here.
Integrity, like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
All right, please identify whoever is going to speak.
Hi, my husband will speak.
Joseph Chaperon.
And spell the last name, please.
Chaperon.
Okay, you can proceed.
Hi, good evening. So basically, my wife and I, we bought this house in 2004, and we did not do much to it besides keeping, about 3 years ago, we had the idea of we could turn this into a two-family, and we basically did everything out of pocket, so we couldn't get it to right away. Plus with COVID-19, so that's why we are applying for this variance at this time to get it turned into a two-family. So the idea is to, because we are a young couple and we have 2 children, and we're gonna need some income to basically literally be able to afford this house, because as you know, everything is going up. So that's basically it.
So you're asking for a variance to change this from a single to a two-family. In the case of a variance, you need to show the board a hardship relative to the soil conditions, the building, the land, the shape? Can you tell us anything about any of that?
So basically, the soil is we did not get the geotechnical to I don't understand the soil. Can you please clarify that? You mean the size of the light? The size of the light, is that what we're talking about?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
You said the soil. What do you mean by that?
Well, soil can mean if you're sitting on ledge and you had to relocate the house from one side of the lot to the other, or there was some particular reason why you could not conform to the zoning regulations.
So
soil.
All right. So the two reasons why we could not conform to the regulation is because the frontage is supposed to be 100 feet back, and it's not. However, if you look at the plan, the plot plan, the survey plan, the house was built where everything was pushed to the front, but we have plenty of room on the back. Not that matters. Second thing also is the square footage. We basically, it requires 5,000 square foot per apartment. And that's basically the two reasons why we're here.
And how many square feet do you have? If you need 10,000, how many square feet do you actually have?
8,000.
We are about 8,500.
Yeah.
So the location of the foundation of this house is where it is, and that was put in long before zoning started. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay. When you purchased this house, did you purchase it as single family?
Yes, it was.
The work that I saw done there, have you pulled out permits to do all that work?
I have permits, and it's all in the city of Brockton. Yeah, I have pulled permits for everything.
So when you pulled the permits to do this work,
yes.
Did you pull the permits knowing that this was being converted into a two-family?
I mentioned it to the building inspector at the time. Again, the work started, actually, let me rephrase that. The work started 3 years ago. And I told them my ultimate intention is to turn this into a two-family. Now I understand he did not take a tape measure and measure everything and all that. But however, I did mention it to him and he said, okay.
So I guess my question to you is, when did all this construction start in relation to you getting permits to do the work?
Permits to do, which work are we talking about here?
Well, you have done a considerable amount of work to convert this into
yes,
a family,
and the permit was pulled for those work. The permit was pulled as far back as 2018.
No, 17.
2017, as far back as 2017.
That's when we started.
We continue in 2018, in 2019. Due to the coronavirus, we couldn't close and
the process we were adding to the permit.
Yes, and through the process we added to the permit,
like the siding and the roof.
Have you had any inspections done of the work that you have completed?
Yes.
Yes, all the permits are closed.
All the permits are closed.
All the inspections, the roughing, and the finish were all done and signed off for.
Can she speak louder? We cannot hear her.
Yes, all the inspections, the rough and the finish, they all were done for all parts of the permit and signed off.
What's your intention of the use of the basement of this building?
Well, the basement is gonna stay exactly how it is. It's not used for anything besides, there's currently a playroom in there, and laundry room, and I believe a wet bar and a mechanical room. So it is as it is.
It's more of when we go down there to, have space to play with the kids and stuff like that. As we have wanting to convert the two, as you are aware.
I am sorry, but I cannot hear a word that she is saying.
So basically, the basement is not being used, has no intention of being changed. It's not gonna be part of the first or second floor. It just is what it is. In other words, At this point, it's mostly a mechanical room. There's a laundry room there, which most likely tenants, if we get any, will be using as a laundry room. But other than that, that's the purpose of it, and that's how we're staying as.
So you're telling us that if this was granted, that basement area would not be used for living area, it would not become another apartment?
No, it will not be coming in the apartment, and it will be used to as a living area.
So there'd be no bedrooms or anything on that basement level?
There will be no bedroom in that basement.
Can you tell us about the parking that's on the property?
So the parking on the property next to the house currently, although the plan is not showing it, but if you look at, again, the plot plan, the 4-car garage that you see is the proposed version. Next to the house currently, there's 2 parking at this point existing. So basically that will make it about 6 parkings if the car park next to each other.
All right, so the plan that I have shows a parking area 24 feet wide, sufficient for 4 vehicles.
Yes, and that is the proposed. That is the proposed one. But next to the house currently, there's parking for 2 cars, which are used by right now by us. So that will make it 6, but yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions by any board members? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
I see no one raising their hand, Mr. Chair.
I have an email that was sent to me from a Dominic Martelli through your office this afternoon, and he wanted to be recorded in favor of this. All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
I see none raising their hands, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up now to discussion by board members. Board. I have a question that I'd like to direct to the building inspector relative to these inspections. Do you have any firsthand knowledge on these inspections that I was asking about?
I do not, but I do have one permit application for adding a 2nd floor room addition. Build a deck, replace windows and doors, all exterior siding. Nothing indicating a 2nd unit was impending.
So if the board voted to allow this, how would you play into this to make sure that this was in conformance with everything that's required for a 2-family?
Well, first thing we'd do is I'd poll my inspectors to see who had been out there. However, the original permit, it appears, was back in 2017. Questionable who was out there for the inspection and what inspector, but because we've had some changeover. But if they had some permit, they have their permit, it would have signatures on there.
Yes, we do.
So we would continue with the inspections.
He mentioned in his testimony that they had inspections of rough and finish. So that means that maybe the electrical's already been inspected.
That is possible. We would have to take a look at that permit card.
All right, so I guess the question to you is, if we approve this, subject to inspections by city agencies, would that make it safe for the board to agree to allow this to take place?
If the board decided that the 2nd unit was acceptable, we would double check the inspections and make sure that it was safe for occupancy.
So if this was approved, they would have to come into conformance with the building laws, state and city, relative to a two-family.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I guess my concern is that it has been, it's in an area of obviously multi-families, and it has been converted to a two-family. It is a large building, and the lot is large, and the parking is sufficient. I'm just concerned that this doesn't morph into anything larger than a two-family, and if this was to be approved, I think stipulation needs to be there that the basement cannot be used for another apartment, separate apartment, or living bedroom space. And it would have to be subject to all safety inspections by the city of Brockton, fire department, building department, etc. This one is unique, and the foundation sits over in the corner of the lot. That's a hardship. There's nothing you can do about that. It has a very large backyard.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I would suggest that I would respectfully suggest that you make the motion in the stipulations as you have clearly outlined to us, so that we won't deviate or lose any of the necessary precautions that need to be added.
Yeah, I'm just a little disappointed that it got as far as it did. I don't know where that information came from, but obviously, from what I saw, a lot of progress has been made, and it does seem to have quite a bit of room around it. All right, so anybody want to make a motion, or are we through discussing it, or what?
I'll make a motion to grant, subject to the stipulations that the chair has just mentioned, and I would ask him to clearly identify what those motions are for the motion to be accepted.
Well, the stipulations we had mentioned here was that there will be no bedrooms in the basement. There would be no living area, so as to speak, in that basement area. The house would remain a two-family house only, and prior to the house being occupied, it shall be inspected by the building and fire and any other agencies for compliance with state and local regulations.
I make that motion. I make a motion with said stipulations.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. The clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Goncalves,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted with the stipulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next petition is 2131. The petition of David Carvalho, manager, care of Philip Mazzarella, 1063 North Main Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from section 2739 and 2710 to allow the property to operate as a mixed use with commercial and 6 residential units in a C5 zone located at 484 Pleasant Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Philip Nasrallah representing 484 Pleasant Street, LLC. David Cavallo is the managing member, the owner of the property. Prior to laying out the basis for why we are seeking this relief, I'd like to just give a brief history, which I think is integral to coming to a conclusion. This property from 1950 to 1976 was operated or was owned by Mr. Tadgen, the Tadgen family. The barn area in the rear was used as a showroom and sales area for oriental carpets and carpet repair by Mr. Tadgen. The front building was the residence of the family. And they operated such for about 35 years. In 1976, Mr. Cavallo, who was a well-known active real estate broker in the area, purchased the building, and he undertook operating a real estate company for many years, Middleton Cavallo Century 21. That operation took place at the first floor in the building of the barn, and the top of it was residential. On the other building, which I call the front building, there was a law office of Attorney David Slutsky in the front, Moores and Cabot Investment, and on the second floor, they had residential use. That continued as such until present time, a period of 45 years that it's always been a mixed use. At some point in time, the city had changed the zone to making it commercial. Our contention was that it has always operated as a pre-existing non-conforming use and should not have lost that status of a mixed use between commercial and residential. In the past several years, because of the demands within the city, the property had converted its use to primarily residential use. This past month, the building was closed. The city had detected numerous items of non-compliance with code. And Deputy Chief Ed Williams issued the order to close the building, which they did. Mr. Cavallo had immediately engaged Mr. Adam Doyle, who is a HUD rehabilitation specialist and an environmental engineer, to examine the property, and prior to requesting any permits, to close down, seal off the building, ensure the safety and security of it, and making an assessment as to what would be needed in order to be completely code compliant. Mr. Doyle is online this evening, and I would ask him to speak to that as well. This would include changing stairwells, taking measurements for new banisters, new flooring. In the substantial renovation would be installing a sprinkler system throughout the building, which in and of itself, they assess runs between 80 to 100,000. So the renovation to make it completely compliant, a modern day first-class units would be around $300,000. So why are we doing this and not just creating all commercial? Well, one reason is we've already expended, or Mr. Cavallo's already expended, between $15,000 to $20,000 in just doing the assessments with Mr. Doyle. And he's had to house all of these people who vacated that property, are now in hotels and being fed by Mr. Cavallo. In the ideal world, I probably would have gone back to the zoning enforcing officer, asked and made a request that it is a mixed use. If it was denied, come back before the board. But due to the timing and the urgency of this, I was compelled to come directly before the board seeking a variance based upon the history of the property, as well as the surrounding neighborhood, which although a C5 zone is filled with these types of mixed uses. And I submitted a memorandum of law to the board earlier, which identifies a lot of those properties. The primary motivating factor for this request, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, is that demand for residential housing in the city of Brockton is now overwhelming. There's been a diminished demand for commercial space. And the reasons for that are multifold. One, technology has now allowed people to work from home. The law has expanded rights for people to take on that type of role. Whether you are a woman with child, that's probably an old phrase, or you were on maternity leave, your rights now have been expanded for a longer stay at home, and you can be employed in that nature. So there's no urgency to get back to an office to retain your job. The C5 zone highlights job descriptions such as lawyers, accountants, engineers, architects, insurance agents, real estate agents. All of those professionals, Mr. Chairman, can take a laptop, be at home, and do their work. Or they can go for a $3 cup of coffee, sit at a Starbucks table in the corner, and call that the office. So as the New York Times newspaper 3 weeks ago on Sunday had an article showing the picture of an office, and underneath of it, remember this, the offices are diminishing, even more so now with the pandemic that's had been an overcast on us for the last year, has shown us that the combination of technology in the interest of health, being not in office is preferable, and not spending the $3,000 to $4,000 a month for office space is preferable for employers. So I think we're seeing the dynamics totally shifting to that has not only given thrust to the residential burst, but also because of the environment or the composition within the city of Brockton, the demand is there for more housing. So that fact as well can be verified by the Metro Chamber of Commerce, who I've discussed this with, talking about the slide in Brockton. And what we are concerned with, properties that are strictly commercial and are difficult to rent, we may revert back to where we were 5, 6 years ago. And I'm sure our zoning enforcing officer will remember they became vacant buildings. And then we called them vacant and abandoned. They were being fined when in fact they weren't always abandoned. They were just vacant and nobody could do anything with them. I could see that cycle reemerging itself if we have buildings unoccupied. And I suggest to this board, most respectfully, if they are all strictly commercial and they can't be rented, they are going to end up unoccupied. I am asking the board to recognize that and to allow this commercial use, this residential use for this building, pending it being compliant with code compliance and permits issued by the city of Brockton. Now, I would ask, with the board's indulgence, to Mr. Doyle just to briefly state his observations of what he has seen on the property and what he would anticipate would be done in furtherance of code compliance. Mr. Doyle, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe Mr. Doyle has worked in the past with Deputy Chief Ed Williams, and they have had conversations about this property most recently. So, Mr. Doyle, with that in mind.
Okay. I got involved in this project on Thursday, February 26th, I believe, when the city task force was on site. David Cavallo had called me and asked me to go out there and meet with the task force to see if we could do anything to keep the building open. Obviously, the violations that he had in place did not warrant that. So I was kind of going back and forth with David if I was going to take on the project. The following day, I spoke with Eddie Williams, and I was able to get his assessment report that he was sending to the property owner as well. And we went over a bunch of the items. So in turn, I contacted Mr. Cavallo and told him I would engage in the project with him only if we had the health and safety in the best interest of the people that would be inside the units and the people that would be outside on the property. Since then, I've got him to agree not to rush through and pull permits to get tenants back into the apartments. A lot of stuff needs to be done at that place, as the attorney talked about, a fire sprinkler system. A lot of the mechanical systems in that property need to be updated. The egress systems throughout need to be updated. A lot of different things. drawings have to be put together. There are architectural drawings now. There is a parking lot layout right now. But I'm going to state again, my role in this is to bring everything as a consultant in order, all the paperwork together to bring to the city of Brockton when the permitting time is then. We've cleaned up the entire property. It was an eyesore. The Conservation Commission came out. There was problems around on the river with one of the tenants. We sealed up any lower access areas that people could break into if they were going to come in and stay in there. We corrected some of the and reinstalled some of the fire escape. I talked to Williams about that prior to doing that. We're going to have an engineer come out and recertify all of those things. So right now the property is clean on the inside and out. All points of entry, if emergency personnel were to enter the building, they have all been cleared and emptied out. There was a stairwell on the backside of the property leading from from building 1, leading down into an office down below there. That only had a width of 23 inches. If somebody were to come out of that door or go up those stairs, the threat of getting getting stuck was a real issue. So we did take down all of the sheetrock that was there, so it is exposed and everybody can see that. We've gotten plans in for gas, heating. Water is an issue at that site. It's only got one water main. It comes off the front street. The water main is really not sufficient to feed the back. So this is what Mr. Cavallo has authorized. Right now, I've been given a budget of $300,000 to put plans in place, get subcontractors in, the qualified subcontractors in there, and get the permit phase going. So that's my involvement with the project.
Before I turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, in the board for questions, I will add that there's over 61,000 square feet on this lot. It's probably one of the largest lots along that area. And I believe that owing to the circumstances relating to the structure, to have to convert that over for commercial use with the potential of not being able to rent it will create a real financial hardship on that lot. And I think there's enough element there to sustain the basis of a hardship, wherein a literal enforcement of this or an allowance of the conversion to residential will not derogate from that area or from the intent of the zoning ordinance, in particular, where for the past 70 years, it has always served as a mixed use. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, Mr. Scott Farrier is on board with us, as long as Adam Doyle. If there are any questions for any of us, we'll be happy to respond.
I guess my first question is specifically what you're asking tonight is to allow this to be used for not more than 6 units.
That is correct.
6 rental units, not condos.
That is correct.
No mixed use.
No mixed use. We found that just doesn't work. It's not working across the city. We don't expect it would work here. And I think the cost factor to try to make it as a mixed use that would not succeed would just be throwing money away.
Any questions from the board?
Well, did I misunderstand that, what you just said? The petition reads to allow the property to operate as a mixed use with commercial and residential. Did you say that it's not going to be commercial, just residential?
That is correct. It's going to be just residential.
Okay, so we should make that clear because the petition reads otherwise, yeah.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, no, it was intended to say it was a mixed use seeking to have it all residential. My fault.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just for the edification of the board, Pleasant Street is zone C5 for a distance of 50 feet back from the street. After you go past the 50-foot mark, it becomes residential. So this building sat half or mostly in residential and somewhat in commercial. Back in 1976, Mr. Carvello came before the board and stated that it was impossible to do much with the building where it was half in the residential zone, and he requested a variance to allow it to be used for commercial use. So currently, right now, this building is allowed for commercial use back based upon that 1976 zoning decision. So basically what we're saying tonight is you're asking to go from commercial to residential, and it's going to be all residential with no mixed use.
That is correct. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully have a different reading on that 1976 opinion. My understanding was the request for the commercial use was for a commercial parking lot to be adjoining the commercial use that was taking place there at the time. But the activity in conduct of operation from that time to present contradicts an interpretation that would be different than I just stated, because it's always been mixed use since 1976 until today. They've always had residential use there. Had the interpretation stood up that it was to be all commercial, it would not have been residential use in the building. But he's always maintained residential use there from 1976 to present. But I think it's in the interpretation of that decision that is sometimes confusing. But again, his activity and conduct since 1976 are consistent to show that it has been residential use.
So by granting a variance, that will clear up the zoning for that property, and you're asking that the zoning be adjusted to all residential.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Even though it has a storied history, shall we say, of what happened in years gone by of half commercial, half residential. There was a request to allow the residential to be used as commercial. The board made a suggestion that all of the property should be used as commercial. So irregardless of that fact, right now, the problem is this needs, if this was to be granted, it would be all residential. And you're telling us that there would be not more than 6 units, and the entire buildings, plural, would come up to the current building codes, including
completely. Yes, that is correct. And there was a lot of oddities in that area, because where the zoning line goes and where the council had changed the ordinance, it was very circular to try to follow. But as you stated, it is correct. It would not exceed 6 units, and it would be completely code compliant to the satisfaction of all of the boards in the city.
So on the plan that was submitted to us, it appears as though in the very back towards the river, there's going to be a large portion of that property that's going to be undisturbed and stay the way it is.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So how many parking places are you proposing on this lot?
We have 19 spaces shown.
So if there was 6 units, we're looking at a minimum of 12 spaces.
Agreed.
And you're providing 19, and
That
you're
is
telling us that that paved area where number 15 through 19, where it says edge of pavement, that is the back of the paved area. Everything from there to the river remains undisturbed.
That's correct.
What did the Conservation Commission have to say about that?
To be honest with you, we haven't filed with conservation. It's an existing condition. And I'm not sure exactly when that parking area was constructed, Mr. Chairman, but we're not proposing any work back there at all right now.
Okay, I thought in the testimony I heard something about conservation.
No, I didn't mention anything about that. I know there's 125 feet setback from the rear of the property to the rear of the structure to the property, but conservation was there. But I am not aware of what the status is with conservation. We'll be visiting that and, clearly satisfying whatever their requirements are.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak, Adam Doyle. Yes, during the February 26th, conservation was called out because one of the tenants that was there was stockpiling firewood in the back. And at that time, they did not note any violations of any buffer zones or any violations of any of the Wetlands Acts at that time. So conservation was there with the task force. They were called. Somebody called conservation out from the city.
And that's all gone.
The wood is all gone, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
No hands are raised, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
Councilor Mendez.
Yes, hi. You can hear me, right?
Yes, Council.
Yes, Rita Mendez, Council at Large, and I am here today to ask the board, because I'm in favor of this petition. I'm very confident that the owner is very invested and committed. And as long as he's that committed to invest up to $100,000 to bring this property to conformity, to bring it up to code in order to ensure the safety of the residents, I'm very confident, because we don't need another building in the city to be vacant. And it is true what Attorney Nasrallah said, that commercial properties are not in high demand as residential, especially the fact that these people that were living in that property is now living in hotels out of their homes. So I would really ask the board to approve this petition tonight and put in conditions to ensure that the owner will in fact comply with all the codes, regulations, and all of the things that the city requires to ensure the safety of the residents. But other than that, I feel very comfortable, especially the fact that it's been used as a residential pretty much throughout. Since 1976, this property has been used, so it's not been really, that hasn't been there with the area in conformity. So I feel very confident, and I am glad that the owner is this invested in order to put in this much effort, work, and money into this project to make this building as it should be. So I thank the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Council. Is there anyone else that wants to be heard?
I don't see any other public officials, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for discussion by the board. Board members.
Well, I think that the councilor has done an excellent job of giving a history of the use of this property and evoking some past names and that have been contributors to the success of that neighborhood, the Tajan family. And David Cavallo has done, I think, a good job of keeping the property in presentable condition up to recent time. And to my knowledge, all that has been written in the time that I've been around is true. It has been used for a substantial commercial use and consistent residential use. So I am concerned that it's going to be only residential use going forward. That from my understanding, and I may need some help in understanding this, that there will, going forward, not be any commercial use of that building without a petition before the board. Is that my understanding?
The understanding that I have is that both of these buildings, and I'm going to call them two, the house and the barn, both of these are going to be reconstructed into a maximum of 6 apartments and there will be no space for any commercial at all.
At all.
And that's my understanding as well.
Right, it's 100% residential.
Okay.
Now, I will ask the attorney if I'm correct on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know, Counselor, we've probably asked that question in several different ways, several times, but I guess we're clear on that now. So it will be residential going forward. Okay. There also seems to be quite a amount of work that the owner is doing in hiring Mr. I guess is it a hiring of Mr. Adam Doyle, or is it a requirement that Mr. Doyle oversee?
I don't think there's any
the work
requirement
he's
for
done?
that. The only requirement that would be on this building would be that it is built to code, to the state building code and the city codes, and it'll be inspected by the city inspectors. So whoever is rehabbing this building has to know all that going forward. And we are also told tonight that this building will be fully sprinkled. So what I understand is that this building has been in a mixed-use area for many, many years. It started out as residential out front, commercial out in the back. It morphed into a mixture of commercial and residential, and in late years, it's been pretty much all residential. It's been discovered that it's been residential in a commercial zone, and so they're here tonight to straighten out that problem. If this is going to be converted into 6 units, my concern is that the 6 units are all in conformance with codes, both state and city, and it is fully sprinkled, that it has the parking as is described. The backyard towards the river is maintained as open space, undisturbed. And it will be apartments, it will not be condos, and there will be no commercial use that will be allowed on the property. That's how I am understanding everything we heard tonight. And if this is approved, we can put all of that in as stipulations. Because it is going from a commercial use back to, or to a residential use. Oh, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion to grant the variance to allow for 6 apartment units with the conditions that they comply with the codes, regulations for the safety of the residents, all is inspected by the city to make sure all the codes are met.
Second.
And on that motion, I think we should specifically say that part of the agreement to do all of this is the board agrees that this building shall be fully sprinkled.
Absolutely, part of the code, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, a motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Goncalves,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The petition to allow the 6-unit apartments is granted.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have to step away for a minute.
Okay, we'll have
I'll be right
a
up.
couple-minute recess.
Thank you. This is Steve Bernard. I'm back.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Steve. Okay, the next petition, 2132. I'm going to reconvene the meeting of the zoning board. The next petition, 2132, the petition of Nazu Barris, 473 Howard Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9 and 2713A to subdivide and construct a single-family home on the new lot in an R1C zone located at 473 Howard Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney John McCluskey, 1325 Belmont Street here in Brockton, representing Neusa Barros, who was the owner of 473 Howard Street, the subject property. We come before you this evening seeking a variance to divide the existing lot at 473 Howard Street.
John, could you speak just a little closer to the microphone?
If I knew where it was.
It's on the...
Yeah. How's that?
That's better. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I guess it must be in the camera. I'm assuming. Let me just move things around here a little bit. So we come before you seeking a variance to divide this lot. Ms. Barros purchased the property in 2016 with her family with the intent to raise her family here on the property. And her brother Amilcar also has an interest in living close by to his family. And the thought came up to subdivide this large parcel of land. And Amilcar would build a home to raise his family in that home located next door. So because of the new regulations, fairly new at this point still, of requiring planning board subdivision approval or preliminary subdivision approval, ET Engineering, and I believe Azu is with us, Azu Antonero tonight, is with us to perhaps speak on that. However, the planning board did review this plan, which creates two single-family lot homes, each with a little over 78 feet of frontage. The existing home would have 14,422 square feet, and the proposed lot would have 12,557 square feet of land. Both of these lots, or both of the homes themselves, would comply with the setback requirements, frontage, side yard, and rear. The only question that we have is there is an existing garage on the existing dwelling property at 473, which, as you can see from the plan, butts right up to the lot line, and it looks like there's a stone wall that it abuts up to. This home was built in the late 1800s. Over the years, I believe, and Ms. Barrows thought even perhaps that she would be able to expand on this property because of the size. It is of unusual size. Although there are some similar lots in the neighborhood, most of them are smaller than this lot, and it's of unusual shape and soil conditions and topography. As you can see, it has some changing elevations throughout the property. The proposed home would be a 4-bedroom single family home, wood frame, full basement. I believe there's a proposed bath in the basement, which would probably be a family room, and then master bedroom on the first floor and 3 bedrooms on the second floor with bath. And so the issue here is, we're taking, I realize what we have here. We have a lot that's been in existence for many, many years as a single lot. And we're looking to seek relief from the Board of Appeals, already having the endorsement by the planning board to do so. And I believe Mr. Pelagi on the planning board at the time said this was a natural subdivision because of the fact that we end up with 2 parcels of land that are good size. We're not encroaching on anyone. We've got plenty of setback throughout, and the resulting rear yards and things, their in front yards are very they fit in well in the neighborhood. So the planning board approved the preliminary subdivision, and here we are before you. The hardship, and it's interesting, this is a larger lot that I mentioned, unusual shape and size. The hardship also is something that I look at it as it's come before us now. We're in a sort of a new economy, and as you know, many people are working from home. Attorney Nazarella referenced it earlier in his comments on the prior case, and there is a pent-up demand in Brockton for new housing, for places where people can move into a brand new home, raise their family on plenty of land. And so I would say that the hardship, although perhaps a little bit unique, is something that we may see more and more. And that is that the market has created a hardship because there's not enough good open property to build a home like this. And here we have a perfect example, as Mr. Pelagi said at the planning board, this is a natural subdivision. So I would respectfully request that the board seriously consider that as a hardship, in the sense that this is going to give this family and brother and sister living next door to each other, raising their families together, which is a very important aspect of life these days, especially given the fact that many people are at home so often. And I hopefully will be through this pandemic, but we'll be in a situation where they'll be a unit, a family, and bound together by their combined or adjacent lots. So let's see. The garage, I know that's an issue, but it's been pre-existing. It probably wasn't built in the 1800s when this house was built. It probably came afterwards. But I don't believe it, although it's right on the lot line, I don't believe that it encroaches in any meaningful way up to the neighbors. I don't believe that there's any opposition to that. In that regard, and I hope it got to your desk, Mr. Chairman, there's a letter dated March 23 states, to whom it may concern, we, the homeowners listed on the abutters list for 473 Howard Street, Brockton, 02302 subdivision project, have seen the plans and support the homeowners on this upcoming project. That's from the, I can't read the signatures, from 479 Howard Street, 11 Livoli Road, and 482 Howard Street. So these are immediate neighbors and abutters to the property who are in favor. I can only imagine getting endorsements these days by knocking on somebody's door. It's not that easy. Having been going through neighborhoods and talking to people in projects that I've been involved with, you don't get anybody answering the door these days. It's a different world out there. So in general, I think I've hit upon the hardship. I think we have ample land. We have a good project for this family, and I think this will work. And this family is behind us. I can see many members of the family on the screen tonight, all in favor of this going through. And we would respectfully request that the board consider that you approve this variance request unanimously. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions by the board members? I have a question that when I went out and visited the site, I talked with the homeowner who happened to be there when I pulled in. There was a conversation relative to the garage, and I thought that the conversation was they were going to remove the garage. Are you familiar with that?
I wasn't able to confirm that this evening, and when I opened the plan, I thought that perhaps that garage was coming down, and I don't have an answer. But there's no reference to it being removed, but quite frankly, I've seen it, and it wouldn't hurt to remove it.
Hi,
Yeah.
good evening.
Pardon me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. This is Nelza Barros. We actually spoke when you did come out to the property, and I did make it known that the garage was original to the home. So the garage, if it does pose an issue, it is on the to-do list to be taken down and rebuilt back up. So we can plan accordingly if need be.
Thank you.
Well, I guess my comment is to the attorney. When we subdivide this property, we're now creating the original house at number 473 more non-conforming. And now we've got a situation where the garage is sitting on the property line, and it appears as though the garage is sitting too close to the house by way of the decks. I would think,
as Ms. Barrows said, we would stipulate to remove that garage if that was something that the board felt was important to do. And quite frankly, it would, single car garages have a limited use, and you go around the city and you still see a lot of them. So I would say that would probably be something that we would easily stipulate to remove from the property.
it would make sense to do that, and if they wanted to put a different garage up, they could put it in conformance with the setback, and everything would fit without a variance. So
I agree with you.
Yeah, technically, when we do something like this, we're now making that other original lot more conforming, and there really should be a request for a variance on the setback from the deck, which is only 24.6 feet. It's supposed to be 30 feet. I know it's there now, and if we weren't subdividing the lot, it wouldn't be an issue. But I think those are things that the petitioners need to keep an eye out for here, that in the future, that as these come before us, if that original building now is going to become more non-conforming, that really needs to be addressed. Personally, I'd like to see that garage get addressed because it's probably sitting into the stone wall. It might even be sitting right on the property line. And if they agree to take that garage out of there, I would not have a problem with what we're trying to do here tonight.
Yeah, we would stipulate to raising the garage when construction began.
Okay, I think what they wanted the garage for was to put stuff in as they were renovating the house. And then as they finish the house, which they apparently have about completed, they were going to get rid of the garage. That's,
That would make sense.
yeah, okay. All
Exactly.
right, any other questions from any of the board members? If not, I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Mr. Clerk? Mr. Clerk, are you there?
The unmute button wasn't working, unfortunately. I don't see anyone here, Mr. Chair.
All right, I am going to ask the attorney to give me the addresses of the letter that was sent in support. I did not receive that letter, but I'd like to get the addresses.
You should have a copy of that in your file. It is 479 Howard Street, number 11 Livoli Road, and 482 Howard Street.
And those must be direct abutters.
It looks that way. I'd be happy to email this to the board this evening.
That's all right. It's all right. As long as you got it in letter form, I'm okay with that. All right. Anyone else who wants to speak in favor?
I see none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition?
I see none, Mr. Chair.
Is there any public official that wants to speak on the issue?
None are present right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, open it up for deliberation by the board. Board members. I have a question for Tony. What was the story on the driveway when they went to planning? Are they going to move the driveway or something?
I don't recall that being an issue. Does the attorney want to answer that? Because I don't remember.
I'm not sure what the issue is. I'm not sure what I know what you mean, Mr.
I think it was a deal with the water line or something. Maybe they're going to move the water line.
Azu, are you able to answer that question?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. That would be correct. What we did was we had the utilities going under the driveway, and the DPW asked that we relocate the either relocate the driveway so that it's not going over the utilities, or remove the or relocate the utilities so they are not going under the driveway.
Okay, so what we're voting on tonight is where we currently see the driveway on this plan then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. So if this is granted, one of the stipulations will be that existing garage will be raised. And they have agreed to that.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Chair?
The existing garage that's in disrepair, that's on the property at number 473, they have agreed to remove that garage. And I think I heard him say they may reconstruct something new.
And then if they plan on creating a new garage, they would pull permits for that at a later time.
Right, and it would then conform to the setback, so they don't need to come to us. Well, if there's no comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the variance for 473 Howard Street with the conditions that the existing garage and disrepair to be removed and the utilities are being relocated.
So that they're not under the driveway.
Not under the driveway. Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with those two stipulations. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Goncalves,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard, I think you're on mute. Mr. Bernard. Well, Chief Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, due to there's only 4 members, I'm not able to get the 5th member yet. You do have a vote of 4-0 at this point.
Yeah, try Steve again.
Mr. Bernard.
I don't see him on the screen.
Yeah, he's logged off.
He's a telephone only. I see that on the screen myself.
His name was showing as Steve previously before the break.
Okay, we can go with a vote of 4-0. It is granted. With the 2 stipulations. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we are trying to reach Mr. Bernard by the phone.
All right, that case is closed, so it'll be a 4-0 vote. All right, the next petition, 2133, the petition of James F. McLaughlin and John W. McLaughlin, 1135 North Main Street, Brockton, for a variance from section 2710, 2732, 2748, to occupy a 2-family residential dwelling in a C5 zone located at 1135 North Main Street.
Mr. Chair, please note that if we do not have Mr. Bernard, we only have a 4-member board.
All right, well, can we reach him?
We are attempting.
There's an echo happening. I'm not sure if someone's on camera and their phone. They have to shut one or the other off.
We still the echo?
Testing. Echo's gone.
Excellent. We'll attempt to reach Mr. Bernard.
Used to be my neighbor on Island Street.
This is Mr. Bernard. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Steve.
Yeah, the vote was yes on the last petition.
All right, well, it passed, so you're all set.
Yeah. Okay, thank
Now
you.
moving on to the next case, which is 2133. This is 1135 North Main Street.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Thank
So
you.
we have not started yet. We were waiting on you.
Good. Thank you very much for waiting.
Okay, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have the pleasure of representing Jay McLaughlin and his brother John. They are, in fact, the owners of the property up on North Main Street that is currently before you. And my name is James Burke, an attorney at law with offices at 48 North Pearl Street in Brockton, Massachusetts. I've known Jay and John for a while, and I was very fond of their dad, who is also a distinguished member of the Bar of Massachusetts, who practiced in Brockton for many years. In fact, in this specific spot, Chet, who is Jay and John's father, opened his business there in 1986 and continued to practice law from that location up until just before his passing. He transferred the property to Jay and John, and it has in fact been continuously used. That is the existing building at 1135 North Main Street for law offices, and I believe Mr. Aziaf, who is a constable, also is part of the building as a tenant. It's a unique piece of property at the corner of North Main and Wilder Street. And the lot in question that we're seeking before you is 101, parcel ID 101 section or 300, which contains roughly 9,382 square feet. Scott Farrier is with us today, and Scott is with J.K. Holmgren. And I know he has supplied a plan to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and if need be to show it, he can put it up on a shared screen. But essentially, we had this matter before the Zoning Board of Appeals in a prior hearing. And reviewing the plan, it was my feeling, and in concurrence with Scott, that it would have been a much better plan if we revised the proposed use, which is in fact a two-family residential structure in a C5 commercial zone, and restructure it so that the parking was totally in the rear of the building. So in fact, the plan before you as it lays out shows no parking in the front of the building, but shows a driveway that arrives and shows a substantial amount of parking in the rear of the structure that meets and comply with the needs of a two-family structure. It is a narrow piece of property. It is in fact, as stated, in a C5 zone. And I think you actually heard some excellent history from a prior attorney that I know well when he explained to you that there virtually is no market for the traditional C5 professional office in an older existing building here in Massachusetts. Essentially, one of the hardships that you can identify under 40A is that when you have a piece of property that becomes uneconomic for the use to which it is allowed, it in fact creates a hardship that is unique to the specific property. And I believe that exists. These have always been two separate parcels. We're seeking to build on 101-300, which is in fact a separate parcel of land. And if you attempted to build and spend roughly $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 on a commercial structure for professional offices in a C5 zone, you would create a complete uneconomic hardship that would result in a disaster from a real estate perspective and an investment perspective. So Jay and his brother want to develop something with that property, and they believe what is in the closest harmony with the existing neighborhood. And they have talked with numerous abutters and neighbors that have been their friends and neighbors for years, is to create a proposed two-family structure that would be in total harmony with the uses that surround them on North Main Street, where there are existing numerous multifamily structures, as well as commercial zones that are still existing in the individual properties. What we've tried to do in the recent plan is to totally separate and segregate the 1135 North Main Street property, and by doing so, we're proposing to create a stockade fence, which creates absolute isolation from the prior commercial use that would be next door. It's also consistent. You have the property 1125 with Mr. Texera also has a stockade fence. There's a stockade fence to the rear. So they're creating a proposed development that's subtle, small, fits, is in harmony with the neighborhood, and will be a substantial betterment, I believe, to the existing and surrounding properties. So we're asking for the court to grant the variances as requested. We need relief dimensionally, and also what we're seeking for is to be allowed to have the proposed two-family built and occupied in a C5 zone. And Scott, if you want to go ahead and touch on any other elements of the plan that might be relevant, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Attorney Burke. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering. I think the only thing I'd like to add to Attorney Burke's presentation, even though we're not asking for any kind of relief at 1135, the McLaughlin's existing law office, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we do have 6 parking spaces available at that property. It's about 1,600 square feet of office space. So your zoning would require 5 spaces, and we do in fact have 6. So just to put the board's mind at ease on that existing property and anything that they would be losing by this, the allowance of this development, they still would be in compliance with the zoning for that existing property. As Attorney Burke said, we have the one curb cut out onto North Main Street for the new 2-family home that we hope to build on 101-300 with ample parking behind it for the 2-family home. That's it for me, sir.
If the board has any questions, we're happy to answer or try to.
Board members. Back in 1978, there was a variance that was granted for this location for 1135. And at the time, there was an apartment on the 2nd floor. Is that apartment still there, or is that gone?
Jay?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. This is Jay McLaughlin. So the that upstairs apartment was my dad's office. It has a bathroom, and there's always been a kitchenette there. So that is used currently as extra office space. On occasion, when my brother and I might have a rather complex legal case, we may stay up there on the couch for the night. But other than that, that is not being used as an apartment.
Okay, so my question was leading up to the sufficiency of that 6 parking places. So apparently 6 is sufficient for what you're trying to do with that building.
We believe so.
Plus there's 2 in front of the garage.
Correct.
Right, so it makes 8, correct.
A question for Scott.
Yes, sir.
The topography of this lot runs from west to east. What about a drainage situation on that east property line? You're gonna do something under the blacktop to catch the water, or what's the story?
There is not any drainage currently, Mr. Chairman. I mean, for the most part, it's a parking lot, but it's not a large impervious area. There's plenty of pervious space on the property currently that can absorb all the runoff from their existing parking lot. And even after we construct our new house, we're eliminating a good section of the parking lot. So really, the trade-off between the new house and the parking lot that's being removed, the impervious area is about a net 0, Mr. Chairman. So as I said, there are no runoff issues. There's plenty of green space, permeable area for it to absorb any runoff.
I don't know if I agree with that, because the blacktop that's being removed, from the edge of that blacktop to the east property line, there's quite a bit of green space that can absorb water.
Right.
The proposal you got before us puts that blacktop right up very close to the property line.
To that area.
So I guess my question is, how much of a problem would it be to put something in underground there to kind of catch that? Because your water is going to sheet all the way from North Main Street down that driveway.
What would be the back right-hand corner, I guess, if you're standing on North Main Street, we could certainly put in a leaching system there to handle any runoff, just to make sure it doesn't escape the property and go onto the abutter, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's my concern with the amount of blacktop on that driveway, that the water's gonna come quick.
Sure.
And the amount of grass between the end of the blacktop and the property line is minimal, so there isn't gonna be much absorption right there, so.
Yep.
I
We can
would think
definitely
you
do
would
that.
wanna do something there.
Sure, we can do that.
Any other questions from any board members? And a stipulation would be, if this was granted, that you are going to put a stockade fence on the east and the north property line?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And what changes would we see from 1135? Nothing other than that piece of blacktop would be removed that's on the current lot?
It's a standalone. It doesn't impact the legal lot as it exists, and we'll just have a stockade separating them. That's all.
Right. Very good. All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Yes, sir. Please give your name to the clerk.
You'll have to unmute.
And your address?
Hello.
Yes, please give your name and address to the clerk.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Rick Texera, and I own the property at 1129 North Main, which is directly to the right of the proposed location.
Yes.
And I've owned the property there for many years, and I've become friends with Jay and John, and they've been great neighbors. And I think that the petition would be a good utilization for the land, and I would be in favor of having them do so.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Yes, please give your name and address to the clerk.
Hi, good evening to everyone, to the board. My name is Ms. Victor, and I am located at 1130 North Main. We're with Light After Death Monuments, and we are in favor of having this addition. We think it'll be great for the area, for the location, and we're very happy. We think that we support them 100%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor?
I don't see anyone else, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
I don't see anyone, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
Councilor Azak.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, board. Shirley Azak, Ward 7 City Councilor. I would just like to go on the record stating that I have been in contact with the applicant, and they have sent me the information that was presented to you this evening. I have not received any phone calls from any or emails from any abutters or any residents that are in opposition or that even have any questions regarding this matter. I also contacted City Hall, and there has not been any residents that have called to question this applicant. So in stating that, I would like to go on the record saying that I am in support of this project, and I put my faith in the board's decision this evening. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
There are no others, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I had a question of Councilor Burke. Was there any setback request that you would put in anywhere there?
Yes, I think you get a side setback.
That's correct.
Which one?
It would be the left side between 1135 and our proposed dwelling, Mr. Chairman. 20 foot is required. We have 18 feet.
8 feet, correct. Okay. Again, I just want to mention that those can become an issue. I guess I got to ask the attorney, are we looking for relief from that side yard setback from 1135 for this particular lot?
I think we did request that in the application.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close, where am I here? Close that portion of the hearing and open up for board discussion. Members of the board. So what we're going to be looking at here is possibly granting a residential use for a two-family house in a C5 zone and relief from side yard setback from a building at number 1135 adjacent to this land. Those are the things we're looking for. And in the discussion, the petitioner has agreed to implement some type of a remediation for the water coming down the driveway before it hits the back property line, which will probably be something that will be underneath the parking lot. And it's something that's done on a regular basis by Scott Barrett. He knows what he's doing on this stuff. So. If there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to grant.
I'll second that with the condition to add the stockade fence on the east and west property line, as Mr. Chair indicated.
And the drainage.
And the drainage.
And the relief for the 20 feet.
And the relief of the 20 feet.
Has that been seconded?
I second it.
Okay, motion's been made and to second it with those three stipulations. Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Goncalves,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
We thank the zoning board for its time and assistance.
The vote is 5-0. The petition is granted with the stipulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next petition, 2134, was the one for 15 Rutland Square. That has been withdrawn and it may be heard at a future date. The next petition is 2135, the petition of Paul E. Clancy Esquire, 71 Legion Parkway, Suite 26, Brockton, Mass, for a variance in section 2729 to construct a two-family residential dwelling in a C2 zone located 370 North Montello Street. Mr. Clancy.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough.
Join the crowd.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. Chairman, that was one petition. This sort of, and by way of background, I can explain there's three petitions that sort of all go together. We originally had filed this back in October, and when we filed it back in October, it was 2 lots. And we were requesting relief from 27-29, the use requirements, to construct 3 two-family dwellings on 3 separate lots. We were asking the board to approve or create these 3 separate lots out of 2 existing lots. The building department suggested that we go back and file 3 separate variances, which would require us to go to engineering, subdivide these 2 lots into 3 separate lots, and file 3 separate variances. So I don't want to mislead the board into thinking that this always was 3 separate lots. They were not always 3 separate lots. We created these 3 separate lots. They were originally 2 separate lots. This was a building, and I'm sure many of you went down there and saw the site. I believe it was the old sausage factory here in Brockton, and there was another building that was like a sort of an outbuilding. What my client is proposing to do is demolish all the existing buildings that are on these particular lots and construct a 2-family dwelling on each of the 3 lots. It's a 2-family that will consist of 3 bedrooms on each floor, a kitchen, and a living room. The 3rd floor will have a great room and a family room, but in no way will it be used for a 3rd apartment. In fact, we would stipulate, if the board is inclined to grant this, we would stipulate that this will only be used as a 2-family, these properties. I would suggest the hardship in this particular case is we have these originally 2 lots that are in a C2 zone, which we've now created 3 lots in a C2 zone that is in a predominantly residential neighborhood. And I understand to the west is the parking lot of, I think it was the Brewster ambulance. And then there was to the south is also a parking lot to another commercial property. But if you look directly to the east and to the north, you have all residential properties. As you can see from the site plan, if you look across the street, if you're looking at the site plan, and you look to the east, there are 3 families and a 2-family, and these lots consist of 6,000, 6,500 roughly, 7,400, 10,000 is probably the largest one, and then there's another one that's 6,000, and across to the north, they're substantially smaller than that, 4,791, and the board can see the size of the lots. These 3 lots that we are proposing, close to a 1/4 acre, roughly 6,800 square feet of land. And, I would suggest to the board, and I would have to agree with Attorney McCluskey and Attorney Nezzarella in that there's the demand for commercial property at this time it has certainly declined. And there's not only a market for residential property, there's a real need for it. As the board may know, that there's a moratorium now on evictions. People can't even find apartments. at this time. And speaking with my client, who's the builder here, he's built numerous two families here in the city, and as you can see from the plans, that they are well, nice looking two families. They have curb appeal, but according to him, the prices of material such as lumber has gone through the roof over the past year. Despite this pandemic, I'm informed now that a 2x4 costs somewhere upwards of $6, which is outrageous. But there's certainly a need for residential dwellings here. And as I said, the hardship here really is that you have this C2 property that's located on the corner of East Ashland and North Montello Street, two main thoroughfares here in the city of Brockton. And I think that to sort of keep this or use this, to continue to use this as a C2 zone would derogate to the intent and purpose of zoning. Here you have all these multi-families and residential areas, residential dwellings, which I think adversely affects the neighbors. You'd have, trucks coming and going, in the early morning hours, especially in this particular area, in this intersection of East Ashland and North Montello. We don't really affect our neighbors adversely because we're not abutting any direct property. We have, like I said, to the west is a parking lot. As you can see, Lot A, which is now called 27-29 East Ashland Street, abuts the parking lot, as does Lot C. So we're not encroaching or interfering with our neighbors. And it would certainly have less of an impact. Cars coming and going at say 8 in the morning, coming back at 5 o'clock at night, as opposed to cars coming in that area backing onto North Montello Street and East Ashland Street all day long. Some of the other permitted uses in that area, would be like auto sales, repair shop, things of that nature, which we just don't need here in the city of Brockton. I would also suggest that that's probably the reason why it's been vacant for so long. I was able to, speak to some of the neighbors down there, and many of them say that going back at least 12 years, this has been vacant, and not only vacant, but it's an eyesore. There's trash down there. Other people use it for their parking. So I think it would certainly be a great improvement to this neighborhood. And here we have a developer who's willing to invest in this area and clean it up and just make it much nicer for the residents that are there right now. If the board has any questions, I certainly try to answer them.
Okay, questions from the board? This lot that you have created on North Montello Street, Lot C, that's the one we're looking at right now?
Yes.
For a two-family home, the lot size should be in the vicinity of 10,000 square feet, and you have 6,740 square feet.
Yes.
All right, and side yard setback, you're only 11 feet on each side?
Correct.
Okay.
That it was just the way that we was able to, to configure that. That was, but that's correct. And Mr. Farrier, who was the engineer on this, he may be able to speak a little better on that.
Any board members have any questions for Mr. Farrier? Board members all set? All right, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting and open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
No one has identified themselves, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
No one is identifying themselves, Mr. Chair.
I am going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that, any public elected official that wants to speak on the issue?
There are none on, Mr. Chair.
Oh, you're fast. All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and now I'm going to open it up for discussion by the board. Board members.
I'm concerned about the lot size being less than 10,000 square feet. A two-family house on 6,000 square feet is a concern. Also, it's on Montello Street, and then add a light at East Ashland and Montello Street is a concern of safety for me.
One of the concerns I have is when you look at the zoning map, virtually the entire length of Montello Street is zoned C2. There are residential properties that were established on that stretch prior to 1967. But I think what the board needs to be cautious of is giving away the commercial property that we currently have on the main thoroughfares. When you look at the entirety of that neighborhood up there between North Montello, North Main, and East Ashland Street, that whole area right there is all zoned for commercial use. And I'm a little bit concerned about giving up that commercial use at that intersection. I too have a problem with the volume of traffic at North Montello and East Ashland Street with vehicles backing out onto North Montello Street. I think the best use of this property, in my opinion, is to continue it as a commercial use. But that's only my opinion, how I feel about it. I think the lot sizes are very, very small for this two-family house. Any other comments from any board members? Any questions?
Well, that's a valid concern, giving up commercial space, but majority of this area, and correct me if I'm wrong, is all residential except for this area, this lot. Or next to it is a trucking parking lot or something.
Yes.
And then up and down both sides of the streets are residential.
That lot where the trucks are parked right now, I believe that goes with the old Tip Top property, which used to be the ambulance company. That land goes with the land that goes out to East Ashland Street. And I don't know if they're renting space there to put those trucks in. I don't know. But it is true. There's a mix of commercial and residential in that area.
And is it right up on the corner of the streetlights, or is there another lot before you get to the streetlights?
Well, we have two more cases coming before us tonight, and one of those will be directly right on the corner of North Montello and East Ashland. So this lot is sitting about 97 feet south of East Ashland Street. So this lot looks like it's pretty much right where that old dilapidated factory is right now, that brick factory. And it would be right up against the fence where those trucks are parked that you talked about. We're going to be dealing with 3 lots on this corner. This is the first one.
Okay. And you said 2 more tonight. I show only 1 more on this agenda, but maybe I'm missing a page.
Yeah, we've got 2135, 2136, and 2137.
Missing a page.
He's going to be before us tonight for 3 separate lots. This is the first one.
Right now, this commercial space is just sitting there empty. an eyesore, dilapidated fence. Building that definitely needs to be torn down. But fellow board member Bernard does have a valid point about the lot size. So is this all one owner for this petition here and the next two?
I believe they're all owned by the same people. Is that right, attorney?
That is correct, Mr.
Right.
Chairman. They're all owned by the same individual, the developer.
So it could be. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think it would be hard to see this, even if you wanted to consider all three together, them developed into commercial properties. Specifically for the traffic reasons that were mentioned here. If you think that it's going to be difficult to get in and out if they're residential, you're going to have the same issues if they're commercial. Whether they exit out onto East Ashland Street or out onto North Montello. I just think that's something to be considered.
yeah. Very valid, and I don't know how to bring this up or broach it, but if it's one owner for these three petitions, it's too dense, not enough lot size. They need to consider shrinking their three plans into two, possibly.
I think that's an excellent idea.
So what are the options here, Mr. Chair, for?
Well, the option is we're going to look at each one of these individually. It would almost appear as though where one goes, they all go. Who knows? I don't know how the board's going to feel about that. But if it was denied, then it stays as commercial. He then could come back before planning with a different plan. And as you suggested, maybe two instead of three. So there's other options. If he wanted to put all three and wanted to stay with his plan, he could not come back for another 2 years.
So can we ask if they want to withdraw and come back with a new plan with understanding,
No, because once the hearing is commenced, they cannot withdraw.
Okay.
So our options tonight is to approve what's before us or to deny what's before us. Based upon the testimony that he's hearing from us tonight, if he felt as though maybe two might work, he could then come back with another plan to planning with two in order to get back to zoning again.
Okay.
That's why if you're gonna withdraw, you have to do it before the meeting starts.
Okay.
So if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Further discussion, please.
Sure.
Just clarification. After listening to other board members and the suggestion that two-family house is more acceptable than three. Make it clear to me how we would vote to encourage that to happen. I didn't quite understand that. Do we, if this is lot C that we're talking about now, if that is denied, if all three are denied, well, I don't know what I'm asking here. If lot C is denied, what is the consequence? of him coming back for two.
I would think that the possibility is that all three of these could be approved. If Lot C, the one before us right now, is denied, the next one that comes up could be approved. I don't know how the board's going to feel about that. I think what we're hearing from the board is that in totality of all three, on the size of the three lots combined, would it make better sense to put two buildings there instead of three buildings? If you feel as though two buildings are better than three, then perhaps the best vote is to vote no on all three, so that then the commissioner would have the ability to come back before planning.
Okay. And that I would like to make a motion to grant Lot C with the hopes that it fails.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant on Lot C. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Goncalves,
No.
Mr. Bernard,
No.
Chief Williams,
No.
Ms. Smith,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
The vote is 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied. Okay, the next petition is 2136, a petition of Paul E. Clancy Esquire, 71 Legion Parkway, Suite 26, Brockton, Mass, for a variance in section 2729 to construct a two-family residential dwelling in a C2 zone located at 27-29 East Ashland Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and as the board has heard and has heard the argument, and I certainly understand the board's position, and certainly is not an unreasonable position. In fact, it's a very reasonable position. And with that, I'm not going to go through this argument that the board has already previously heard. So I will rest with that.
Okay, and the lot in discussion here on our plan is Lot A, correct?
Correct, Mr. Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions from the board?
Is it necessary to go through the whole procedure before we get to the point of making a motion?
Yes.
I have
Thank you.
no questions.
Okay, so the board is all set? I'm gonna open it up.
Chairman?
Yes.
So Attorney Clancy, I think you're kind of getting a sense of where this is going.
Correct. And like I said, it's not unreal. I think it's very reasonable. The board is being very reasonable.
Right. So I think, and I don't know the exact procedures of combining lots, but you may want to advise your clients to pursue whether you have to combine all three lots and cut that into two and build two families. I think that's the direction.
I think you're absolutely right. And certainly the board cannot, if say two of these are approved and one is denied, that's going to leave the board in a precarious situation, because now we have another lot that's just sort of hanging out there. And I think that the best approach for everybody would be to make sure that this is all put together,
exactly,
one package, and so the board is going to know what's going to happen, because the board obviously has a duty and an obligation to the city of Brockton and the residents,
right?
And to know what's going to go on up there. So I think that
I think one thing that should be looked at, and this may be for Scott, is the ability for all the parking. Let's just say down the road it's allowed for two families. The vehicles be able to turn around at the, say, the rear of the houses. So they're not backing out onto either East Ashland or North Montello. I completely understand the traffic issue. So however you configure the parking, it would be much more conducive to have vehicles be able to pull straight out.
Yeah, we could do one parking lot, chief, as
Right.
opposed to 6 separate driveways. We could do one parking lot to handle the 2 buildings.
Right.
Be a lot better situation.
I think I agree.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other comments from the board members? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
No one here, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
There is no one here, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
There are no public chairs here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the board will open it up now for discussion among the board members.
I think that we have preliminarily discussed the direction that we want to go on this, and as such, as I did on the last, I would like to make a motion to grant with the hopes that it fails.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Mr. Clerk will please call the roll.
Ms. Goncalves?
No.
Mr. Bernard?
No.
Chief Williams?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Chair Galligan?
No.
That's 5 in the, 0 in the negative, affirmative, 5 in the negative, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the vote is none in the favor, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied.
Thank you, board.
Okay, the final case of the evening. Petition number 2137, the petition of Paul E. Clancy Esquire, 71 Legion Parkway, Suite 26, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from section 2729 to construct a 2-family residential dwelling in a C2 zone located at 31 to 33 East Ashland Street.
Good evening again.
This would be Lot B, is that correct?
Yes, yes, Chief. That's absolutely correct. Again, you heard my argument with the other two. It's a cookie cutter argument with respect to the third lot, and again, I'm not going to waste any of the board's time with a repeat argument. With that, I will rest.
Okay, very good. Open it up to the board. Any questions of the board to the petitioner?
Oh, none from me.
Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
There are none here, Mr. Chair.
Close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
There are none here, Mr. Chair.
I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to speak on the issue?
There are no public officials here, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing and now open it up for discussion among the board members.
I'd like to make a motion, and that motion is to grant with the hopes that it fails.
Second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. All those, clerk will please call the roll.
Ms. Goncalves?
No.
Mr. Bernard?
No.
Chief Williams?
No.
Ms. Smith?
No.
Chairman Galligan?
No.
Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is none in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied. That is the final case for this evening.
Thank you, folks. Good night.
Yeah, thanks for everybody being here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to
See
see
you
you
next
all.
month.